Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I've been planning my 26th birthday for a few weeks. I wanted something low-key but nice. Just dinner with friends at this place downtown I'd been eyeing for a while. The kind of restaurant where you can get a solid meal without breaking the bank. Entrees were around $30 to $40, maybe more with drinks, but totally reasonable. 3 weeks out, I sent invites to about 10 people. I made it clear in the message, separate checks. I just wanted everyone together to celebrate. No expectations. Everyone started saying yes pretty quickly. Most of my crew lives close by, so it was easy. Then I heard from this guy I went to high school with. We stayed friends over the years, though not as tight since he moved to the next state over about a year and a half ago. We still texted here and there. I considered him a good friend. He said he'd love to come and would make the drive, 2 hours each way. I told him he didn't have to, that I'd understand if it was too much, but he pushed back, said he missed everyone and wanted to catch up. I thought that was really cool of him. The night came and everyone showed up right on time. The restaurant had this cozy vibe without being fancy. We got a long table near the windows and the conversation started flowing immediately. People were laughing, swapping stories, talking about what's new. It was exactly what I wanted. He got there about 15 minutes late, said he hit some traffic. No problem. We squeezed him in and he jumped right into everything like he'd never left. Ordered a couple drinks, got an appetizer for the table. Seemed like he was having a blast. I was happy he came. Dinner went for about 2 hours. The food was incredible. I got this pasta dish I'm still thinking about days later. Everyone seemed happy with their orders. We took photos, did some toasts, the whole thing. One of my better birthdays in recent memory. Then the server brought the checks. I told her when we ordered that we needed them separate and she handled it perfectly. Everyone got their own bill. People started pulling out cards, checking totals, figuring out tips, but he just sat there, didn't reach for his wallet, didn't even look at the check in front of him, just staring at his phone. At first I thought maybe he was pulling up his banking app or something, but minutes went by. Everyone else had already paid or was paying. The server collected most of the checks. He still hadn't moved. I started getting this weird, anxious feeling. Something was wrong. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Me. Hey, you good? He looked up like I bothered him. Him? Oh yeah, all good. I thought since it's your birthday, you'd be covering this. I actually laughed because I assumed he was messing with me. But his face stayed serious. Me. What? No, I said separate checks in the invite. Everyone's paying for themselves. Him? Yeah, but I drove 2 hours to get here. That's like $30 in gas easy. So I figured you'd at least cover my meal. The whole table went quiet. Everyone was pretending not to listen, but absolutely was. I felt my face getting hot. Me. Nobody asked you to drive 2 hours. You said you wanted to come. Him. Right, because it's your birthday. I made the effort to be here for you. His logic made zero sense. I've been completely clear about separate checks. He confirmed knowing that. Now he was acting like he'd done me some huge favor that meant I owed him a free meal. The server was hovering nearby, clearly feeling the tension. My other friends were exchanging looks. The whole vibe had shifted into this uncomfortable mess. I looked at his check. $67. 2 cocktails, the appetizer, his entree. Not crazy, but not nothing either. Part of me wanted to hold my ground, to tell him this wasn't how things worked and he needed to pay like everyone else. But we were in public. My friends were watching. The server was waiting. I just wanted it over. I grabbed his check and added it to mine. The total came to about $140 with tip. I paid without saying another word to him. Him? Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. He said it like it was nothing. Like I'd just done some tiny favor. Like this was normal. The rest of the night was dead to me. We left and people hung around outside for a bit, but I was checked out. I made small talk for maybe 10 minutes, then said I was tired and went home. I spent the whole next day replaying it, getting angrier every time. The nerve of it. The assumption that, because I invited people to my birthday, I owed him something. The gas excuse was ridiculous. If you can't afford a 2-hour drive and a $70 meal, don't come. Or at least say something beforehand. 3 days later, he texted me. That was so fun. We need to do it again soon. When are you free? Like nothing happened. Like he didn't completely blindside me and forced me to pay for his meal after I explicitly said everyone was covering their own. I didn't respond. I'm still deciding if I should actually tell him why I'm upset or just let the friendship die naturally. Either way, I'm over it. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 2 years now. We met during our first year of college and just clicked immediately. He's the kind of person who listens more than he talks, which I really appreciate because I can be pretty chatty. We moved in together about 6 months ago and things have been great. He gets along with most of my friends, or at least I thought he did. My friend from high school decided to throw herself this massive 21st birthday party. She rented out this whole venue, invited like 30 people, and made it this huge deal. When she sent out the invitations, I told her we'd both be there. She seemed excited about it, and everything felt normal. The party was on a Saturday night. My boyfriend and I got dressed up and headed over to the venue together. When we walked in, there were all these decorated tables with name cards at each seat. I thought it was a nice touch. Very organized. Very her. I found my name pretty quickly at a table near the front with my friend and some of her closest friends from college. I smiled and looked around for my boyfriend's name card. It wasn't there. I checked the other seats at the table. Still nothing. I asked him where he was sitting. He was standing a few feet away, holding a name card. He told me he was apparently sitting over there and pointed across the room to a table in the corner. I walked over with him and looked at who else was seated there. I didn't recognize a single name. These were people neither of us knew. I said it was weird and that this had to be a mistake. He suggested maybe she just ran out of room at my table. I pointed out there were 2 empty seats right next to me. He just shrugged, but I could tell he was confused. I told him to hold on and went to find my friend. She was near the entrance greeting people when they arrived. I asked her if there might be a mix-up with the seating chart. She asked what I meant. I explained my boyfriend was seated at a completely different table from me, like across the room with people we didn't know. She said that was intentional. I blinked at her. I asked why. She said she just didn't want couples attached at the hip all night and wanted people to branch out and mingle. That sounded reasonable at first. I looked around the room at the other tables. There was one couple who'd been dating for maybe 3 months, sitting right next to each other. Another couple who'd literally just started seeing each other a few weeks ago were also together. Actually, every single couple I could see was seated together. I pointed out that everyone else was sitting with their partner. She looked uncomfortable. She told me to look and then admitted she just thought he might kind of kill the vibe. She said I was way more fun when I wasn't worried about him. I felt like I'd been slapped. I asked what she meant by kill the vibe, since he'd never done anything wrong at any event we'd been to and was always polite and respectful. She said he was just so quiet, and it was her birthday, and she wanted it to be energetic and fun. I asked if she deliberately separated us while seating every other couple together. She got defensive and said I was being so dramatic and it was her birthday, and asked if I could just let this go. I walked back to my boyfriend. He was standing near his assigned table looking at his phone. When he saw me, he tried to smile. He asked if it was a mistake or something else. I told him she did it on purpose because she thinks he'll kill the vibe. His face fell. He just said, "Oh." I apologized and said this was ridiculous. He said it was fine and it was her party and he'd just sit over there. I told him it wasn't fine because everyone else was sitting with their partner. He looked around and realized I was right. I could see him trying to process it. He wasn't angry. He just looked hurt and embarrassed. He's never been the type to demand attention or make a fuss, but I knew this was bothering him more than he was letting on. We ended up staying for the rest of the party. I sat at my assigned table, but I was pretty quiet the whole time. My boyfriend tried to make conversation with the people at his table, but they all seemed to know each other already, and he was the odd one out. Every time I looked over at him, I felt worse. When it was time to cut the cake, everyone gathered around the main table. My friend made a big speech about how grateful she was for everyone coming and how special this birthday was for her. She went around thanking specific people by name. She thanked her college roommate for planning the decorations. She thanked her cousin for helping with the playlist. She thanked at least 10 different people individually. She didn't mention me once. After the cake, people started dancing. I stayed at my table. My boyfriend came over and sat in one of the empty seats next to me. He asked if I was okay. I said not really and asked the same. He said he'd had better nights. We sat there for a while just watching everyone else have fun. Then my friend walked over. She asked why we were just sitting there and said we were being such a downer. I told her we were fine and just taking a break. She said it was making everyone uncomfortable and asked if we could at least pretend to be having a good time. I said maybe if she hadn't gone out of her way to make my boyfriend feel unwelcome, we'd be having a better time. She got angry and said, "Here we go again," and asked if I was really going to make this whole night about me. I pointed out I hadn't said anything to anyone else and had been sitting there quietly. She said I was radiating negativity and people could tell I was upset. I admitted I was upset and explained that she told me my boyfriend kills the vibe and then seated him away from me, while every other couple gets to sit together. I asked how she thought that would make us feel. She said she already explained this, that it was her party and she wanted a certain energy, and if I couldn't respect that, maybe I should just leave. My boyfriend stood up. He said we would leave. He took my hand and we walked out. I heard her say something behind us, but I didn't turn around. We got in the car and just sat there for a minute. He apologized. I asked why he was apologizing since he didn't do anything wrong. He said he knew, but now I was in a fight with my friend because of him. I told him she was in a fight with me because she was rude to him, and that was on her, not him. The next morning I woke up to 17 text messages from my friend. She said she couldn't believe I just walked out of her party. She said I completely embarrassed her in front of everyone. She said people were asking where I went, and she had to make excuses for me. She called me selfish. She said I always have to make everything about me and my relationship. She asked if I had any idea how much money she spent on that party. She said I just left like it was nothing. I didn't respond right away. I made coffee and sat down to actually think about what I wanted to say. Then more messages came in from other people. One mutual friend said I should have just sucked it up for one night. Another said it was her birthday, and I should have been more understanding. But then I got a message from someone who'd been sitting at the table with my boyfriend. This random guest said they just wanted to say what my friend did was really messed up. They said my boyfriend seemed like a nice guy and he looked miserable all night. They said they didn't blame me for leaving. That made me feel a little better. Then another person from the party reached out. They asked if my friend was really telling everyone I threw a fit and demanded she change the entire seating chart. And if that's not what happened. I told them no, that I asked her privately why we were separated, and she told me he kills the vibe and that I didn't yell or make a scene. They said they figured and that she'd been doing damage control all morning. They said they just wanted to hear my side. I finally responded to my friend. I told her I didn't embarrass her and that she embarrassed herself by treating my boyfriend like he wasn't welcome at her party while welcoming every other couple. I said I asked her about it privately and she doubled down, then she told us to leave, so we did. She said she never told me to leave. I reminded her she said if we couldn't respect her party we should go, so we went. She accused me of twisting her words. I said I really wasn't. She didn't respond after that. Instead, she posted on social media about how some people can't just be happy for others and how disappointed she was that her birthday was ruined by drama. The comments were full of people saying they were sorry her day was ruined and that some friends aren't worth keeping. I didn't comment or react. A few days later, another friend who'd been at the party called me. She said she needed to know what actually happened because the story keeps changing. I told her everything from start to finish. She said that's what she thought and told me my friend had been saying. I caused a huge scene and made her cry in front of everyone. I explained I talked to her twice, both times away from other people, and we left quietly. She said she knew because she was there, and she was just letting me know what my friend was saying now. Over the next week, I lost about half of our mutual friends. They either believed her version of events or decided they didn't want to be involved in drama. But the other half reached out to say They saw what happened and they thought she was out of line. One girl told me she'd noticed how my friend had been weird about my relationship for a while now. She said my friend used to make little comments about how I was always with my boyfriend or how I'd changed since we started dating. I'd never really paid attention to it before, but looking back, she was right. My boyfriend told me he didn't want to be the reason I lost friends. I told him he wasn't. My friend made a choice to single him out and be rude. I made a choice to stand up for him. Those were our choices, not his. About 2 weeks after the party, my friend unblocked me and sent one more message. She said she'd been thinking about everything and just wanted me to know that she was hurt. She said she spent weeks planning that party and I made it all about my boyfriend's feelings instead of celebrating her. I read it a few times. Then I blocked her. I've been driving a cab in the city for about 7 years. I've seen my fair share of difficult passengers over the years, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened. I just dropped off a fare near the shopping district and was about to head back toward the main street when I saw two women standing on the corner. One was dressed in business attire, looked to be in her mid-30s, carrying a briefcase and checking her phone. The other woman, who I'll call Karen, was larger, probably in her late 40s, wearing a tracksuit and had this impatient look on her face like the world owed her something. I pulled up to the curb and rolled down my window. I asked if they needed a ride. Karen started walking toward my cab, but the businesswoman got there first. She told me she needed to get to Fifth Avenue, but asked if it would be possible to make a quick stop at the pharmacy on Elm Street first. She explained that her daughter was sick and she needed to pick up her prescription before they closed. I told her that was no problem, and to hop in. That's when Karen lost it. She demanded to know why the other woman was getting in, claiming she was there first. I explained that the businesswoman had gotten to the cab first and was already getting in. Karen shot back that she didn't care because she had an important appointment and needed to go right away. The businesswoman was already settling into the back seat, looking uncomfortable. She apologized but said she really did need to get this prescription because her daughter had a fever of 103. Karen snapped that it wasn't her problem and ordered me to tell the other woman to get out. I refused, saying I already agreed to take her and that another cab would be along in a few minutes. Karen asked if I knew who she was. I told her I was going to have to ask her to step back from the vehicle. I started to slowly pull away from the curb. That's when things got crazy. Karen ran alongside the cab for a few feet, then suddenly threw herself onto the hood of my car. I slammed on the brakes, my heart racing. I shouted at her, asking what she was doing and telling her to get off my car. She yelled back that she wasn't moving until I kicked the other woman out and took her instead. She was sprawled across my hood, her face pressed against the windshield, looking at me through the glass. The businesswoman in the back seat had her hand over her mouth in shock. She asked if Karen was actually serious. I said I thought she was. Karen screamed that she wasn't moving until I did what she said. I warned her that she needed to get off my car right now, or I was calling the police. She told me to go ahead, claiming they would side with her and that I was discriminating against her. I was about to reach for my phone when I noticed two police officers on foot patrol coming down the sidewalk. They'd obviously seen the whole thing because they were already heading our way with purpose in their stride. The first officer ordered her to get off the vehicle right now. Karen claimed I was refusing service to her and breaking the law. The second officer told her that wasn't how this worked and to get down now. Karen reluctantly slid off the hood, but she wasn't done yet. She demanded they arrest me, claiming I assaulted her with my car. The first officer said they saw the whole thing and that she had jumped onto a moving vehicle, which was actually a crime. Karen insisted it wasn't and that she was just trying to stop me from leaving. The second officer told her to turn around and put her hands behind her back. She protested that they couldn't arrest her because she didn't do anything wrong. But the officers weren't having it. They moved to detain her, and that's when she really started fighting back. She tried to pull away, screaming at the top of her lungs. She shrieked that they needed to get their hands off her, claiming this was police brutality and threatening to sue all of us. The first officer ordered her to stop resisting. She yelled back that she wasn't resisting and that they were attacking her. She kept thrashing around, trying to yank her arms away from them. It took both officers to get the handcuffs on her, and even then she wouldn't stop screaming and kicking. The second officer warned her that she needed to calm down right now or she was adding another charge to this. She screamed that she didn't care and that we were all going to pay for this. Once they finally got her secured, one of the officers came over to me while the other kept hold of Karen, who was still yelling about lawsuits and discrimination. He asked if I was all right. I told him I was fine, just shaken up, but that she did damage my hood. I got out and showed him the dent in my hood where she'd landed. You could see the impression clear as day. He said they would need statements from both me and my passenger. I told him absolutely, and that I wanted to press charges. I also told him I wanted it noted that I was going to seek compensation for the damage to my vehicle. The businesswoman got out and gave her statement too, backing up everything I said. The officer took down all our information and told us we'd be contacted about a court date. When they led Karen away, still screaming and struggling, the other officer came back over. He told me that just so I knew she was looking at multiple charges now. The initial incident plus resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. He mentioned she kicked his partner. I apologized that they had to deal with that. He said it was part of the job but agreed that she was in for a rough time. I took the businesswoman to get her daughter's prescription and then to Fifth Avenue like she'd asked. She gave me a generous tip and thanked me for not giving in to Karen's demands. I met with my lawyer the next day. He looked over the police report and the photos of my damaged hood. He told me this was about as straightforward as it gets. I had 2 police officers as witnesses, video from my dash cam, and documented property damage. He assured me she would definitely be paying for my repairs and probably a good bit more. I said that was good to hear. He added that with the additional charges she racked up resisting arrest, she was probably going to be dealing with legal problems for a while. The hearing is scheduled for next month. My lawyer says it's guaranteed we'll win. Meanwhile, I got an estimate for the hood repair, $800. All because someone couldn't wait 5 minutes for the next cab. I volunteer at the community food bank. Started right after I lost my job during the pandemic and had to use their services myself. Once I got back on my feet, I figured it was time to give back. Usually I'm in the back sorting donations or loading boxes into cars, but yesterday they asked me to work the distribution table because we had something special going on. A local business had donated enough money for us to give every family a $25 gift card to Safeway. On top of that, we had funds to buy turkeys for the holidays. Real turkeys, not those little frozen things. We were so excited to be able to give people more than just the standard food boxes for once. I got to the food bank early to help set everything up. My supervisor handed me a stack of gift cards and a list of families we were expecting. She told me to make sure everyone signed for their card because we needed to keep track for the donors. I said I understood and mentioned how this was going to make so many people happy. She agreed and said it had been a rough year for a lot of folks. The first few hours were exactly what I hoped they'd be. Families came through, got their regular food boxes, and then I got to hand them the gift card and tell them about the turkey. The reactions were incredible. The first man in line asked if I was serious about a gift card too. I explained it was $25 to Safeway and that there was a turkey for him at the end of the line. He thanked me over and over and said his kids were going to be so excited. An elderly woman actually teared up when I gave her the card. A young couple with a baby kept thanking me repeatedly. It felt good, really good. This was why I volunteered. Then Karen showed up. She walked in like she owned the place, pushing past people in line. I recognized her from previous visits. She always had something to complain about. The bread was stale, the canned goods were dented, the produce wasn't organic, every single time. I greeted her politely and asked her to sign so I could get her the gift card and she could head to the food distribution. She grabbed the pen and scribbled something illegible. Then she asked what kind of gift card it was. I explained it was a $25 card for Safeway and mentioned we had turkeys available today too. She snatched the card from my hand and looked at it like I just handed her a piece of trash. She asked if that was all just $25. I confirmed it was and explained it was a gift from a local donor. She said it wasn't very much and complained that $25 didn't buy anything these days. I could feel my smile getting tighter, but I kept my voice calm. I told her it was meant to supplement the food box and that every bit helps. She asked where these turkeys I mentioned were. I said they were at the end of the distribution line and everyone got one. She wanted to know how big they were. I told her they were about 12 to 14 pounds. She scoffed. She said that was pretty small for a family turkey. I explained they were a standard size and perfect for most families. She wasn't done though. She turned to the people waiting behind her and started complaining to them. She asked if they could believe we were only giving out 25 measly dollars and a tiny turkey, acting like that was supposed to feed a family for the holidays. The woman behind her looked uncomfortable and didn't respond, so Karen turned back to me and asked if she could use the card at Starbucks. I told her no, it was specifically for Safeway for groceries. She said that was ridiculous and asked what if she didn't shop at Safeway. I suggested she was welcome to gift it to someone who does. That seemed to catch her off guard for a second, but she recovered quickly. She demanded to speak to whoever was in charge of this program and said the whole thing was insulting. I told her I was happy to get my supervisor, but reminded her the cards and turkeys were gifts and no one was required to accept them. She said of course she was going to accept them, but insisted we should be doing better. She complained that whoever donated the money should have given more and repeated that $25 was an insult. Something in me snapped, not in an angry way, but in a done with this way. I told her she was absolutely right, and if she felt insulted by this gift, I wouldn't want her to feel that way. I offered to give her card and turkey to the family behind her since I was sure they'd appreciate it. She said she never said she didn't want them. I pointed out that she said they were insulting and I wouldn't want to insult her. She told me to stop putting words in her mouth. I said I was just offering her a way to avoid feeling insulted, and if the gifts weren't what she wanted, someone else would be happy to have them. The woman behind her in line spoke up and said she'd take them if Karen didn't want them. She mentioned her kids would love a turkey for Thanksgiving. Karen spun around and told her to mind her own business. The woman fired back that Karen was holding up the line complaining about free food and should just take it or not. A few other people in line started nodding. Someone muttered something about being grateful. Karen looked around and realized she'd lost her audience. She said fine, she'd take them, but threatened to write a letter about this. I told her she was welcome to do that and asked her to sign for the turkey. She snatched the clipboard, signed it, and stomped off toward the food distribution area. I could hear her complaining the whole way. The woman who'd spoken up stepped forward and apologized for Karen's behavior. She said some people just can't be happy. I told her not to apologize and thanked her for speaking up. I handed her the card and she thanked me over and over. She explained that $25 was going to help them get some fresh vegetables for the holiday meal. I told her she was very welcome. The rest of the afternoon went smoothly. Every single person after Karen said thank you. Some people thanked me multiple times. One man shook my hand for a full 30 seconds. A teenager hugged me. When we were cleaning up at the end of the day, my supervisor came over. She said she'd heard there was some drama with a gift card. I explained it was just someone who thought $25 wasn't enough. She asked if it was the woman who always complains. I confirmed it was. She said I'd handled it well and that she'd been listening. She thought offering to give the items to someone else was perfect. I told her I just didn't want that negativity to ruin what should have been a good day. She said it was a good day, and we'd helped a lot of families. She told me not to let one person change that. She was right. We'd given out over 200 gift cards and turkeys. 200 families had a little extra help for the holidays. That's what mattered. I'm a 28-year-old guy from India, and I've been living in the UAE for about 3 years now. I moved here after finishing my marketing degree back home, and life has been pretty good. I started my own digital marketing consultancy about a year ago, mostly helping small businesses with their social media presence and online advertising. It's not a huge operation or anything, just me and a couple of freelancers I work with remotely, but it pays the bills and then some. I live in a decent apartment building in Dubai. Nothing fancy, but it's a good location, and the building is well maintained. Most of my neighbors are pretty friendly. We do the typical elevator nod, Maybe exchange a few words about the weather or complain about the parking situation. Normal stuff. My routine is pretty simple. I work from home most days, which means I'm on my laptop a lot, taking calls with clients, managing campaigns, that kind of thing. To break up the day and stay healthy, I hit the gym in the evenings. There's a decent one about 10 minutes from my building. I usually go around 6 or 7, work out for an hour or so, then head back home to shower and make dinner. That's exactly what I was doing when this whole thing happened. I just finished a solid workout, nothing crazy, just some weights and cardio. I was tired but in a good mood. You know that post-gym feeling. I got back to my building, swiped my key card, and headed for the elevator. I pressed the button for the 7th floor and stood there scrolling through my phone, just checking messages and emails. The elevator stopped on the 5th floor and this woman got in. I'd never seen her before in the building, which isn't that unusual since there are probably 100 apartments here. She looked to be in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, white woman, dressed casually but nicely. I did what I always do when someone enters the elevator. I looked up, made eye contact, gave a polite nod, and greeted her. Just basic courtesy, right? That's what normal people do. What happened next threw me off. She put her finger to her lips and made this loud shushing sound at me, like I was a kid being too loud in a library or something. She had this annoyed expression on her face like I'd just committed some terrible offense by greeting her. I just stood there totally confused. I didn't know what to say or do. I shrugged it off and went back to looking at my phone, trying to ignore the awkwardness. The elevator was moving slowly up and I was just counting the seconds until I could get out of this uncomfortable situation. Then, maybe 5 seconds later, she changed. Her whole demeanor shifted. She looked at me and asked if I lived in the building. Her tone was different now, almost friendly. I was still processing the shushing thing, so I was a bit cautious. But I told her yes, I lived in the building. Her expression got more interested. She started asking me more questions. She wanted to know what I did for work and what kind of business I was in. I didn't know where this was going. I was still confused by the whole interaction, but I figured I'd just answer and get this over with. I told her I ran a marketing business, specifically digital marketing with a focus on social media and online advertising. When I mentioned marketing, her eyes lit up, like I just told her I was giving away free money. The elevator was reaching my floor, the 7th, and she got really animated. She told me she was an artist and had a page where she showcased her work. She went on about how hard it was to get visibility these days, and then asked if I could help her with marketing her art on social media. I was stunned. This woman had shushed me like I was bothering her less than a minute ago, and now she was asking me for professional help. Free professional help, by the way. She didn't offer to pay or anything, just assumed I'd do it as a favor. The elevator doors opened on my floor. I needed to get out of there. I told her I couldn't help with that and walked out as fast as I could without running. I heard her start to say something else, but I was already halfway down the hallway to my apartment. I got inside, locked the door, and just stood there for a minute trying to process what had just happened. The whole thing felt like some kind of power play, like she wanted to establish dominance by shutting me down when I was being polite. And then, when she found out I had something she wanted, suddenly I was worth talking to. The entitlement was unbelievable. She treated me like I was an inconvenience and then expected me to do free work for her. I told a few friends about it later that night, and they were just as confused as I was. One of them suggested that maybe she was having a bad day or was on a phone call or something when I greeted her, but that doesn't explain why she'd then turn around and ask for a favor. If you're in the middle of something important, you don't start asking strangers for professional services. I haven't seen her in the building since then, which is probably for the best. I don't know what I'd even say if I ran into her again. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.